Hey everybody, my name's Alexandra, and today I'm going to show you how to use Padlet. So I haven't used Padlet yet with a reading group, but I use it with my high school students, and they really love it as just an alternative way to have a conversation. Some advantages of it are like any written conversation. People who might be shyer to immediately talk are there. Everybody has more of a equal voice since you're not taking turns. Everyone can talk at the same time. And an added bonus of Padlet is that people can upload content as well as just writing. So I'm going to show you both how to make one and how to use one today. So, what it might look like, I don't, like I said, I have an example from a reading group, but this is an example that my students and I used. So, I wanted to introduce a topic. So, I just pre uploaded a bunch of pictures and quotes, and then they were coming in and commenting. So, for this Padlet, they weren't actually uploading their own material, they were just commenting on material I'd pre uploaded. And that's one option for how you could use it with your reading group. In my reading group, I might put a bunch of quotes from the reading and have people react to them. But as you can see, the kids just went in and put a comment underneath things. And I gave them like 10 minutes, go and comment on 5 things. So that's one way you might kind of introduce a conversation in your group. So the way you actually make it, you're going to go to padlet.com and it will, I'm already logged in, so I uploaded my dashboard or opened my dashboard. You will have to make an account, which is free to make. The only disadvantage of Padlet is that if you want to make more than I think it's 3 or 5, you have to have a paid account. However, this is not a tool that I use super often, so I've not really had that issue. I'm also like the queen of signing up for websites with different emails. So that's one option if your group really likes it, or just ask different people to make one. But you do get, I think it's between 3 and 5 for free. So hopefully that's not a big issue. So the first thing you'll do is just click make, and then that will go ahead and open up all of your make options. I usually use like the wall, the shelf, or a grid, just because that kind of shows everything. Like this was a grid that just shows everything on the page at the same time, so there's no scrolling really necessary. But you can do other things. I've had students make them and use the map feature when they wanted to show stuff in different locations, or the timeline might be a good use in a reading group if you're looking at like historical things and you want to look at like events and how they've taken place. But for today, we'll just go ahead and make a wall because it's very simple. So it will upload and kind of like pre-select a bunch of stuff. They look different every time, the pre-selections. So you just do have to go through and change all of those, but it immediately prompts you to what you need to change. So first you're just gonna add a title. In the description, that's usually where I put instructions, especially if you're doing a silent activity where you want people to be like communicating there and not in your meeting talking. I think it's really helpful to have the instructions written down, even for adults, so that if they're having like a full 10 minutes, somebody may forget what they're supposed to be doing. So I like to go ahead and put the instructions in there. Comment on 3 quotes and respond to 2 other people. Be helpful if I could type today. But you just put the instructions in there, and you can always go in and add that or edit it later if you need to. This is where you'll see the link. You can choose a wallpaper. There's like a bunch of fun ones, but just for accessibility, I think it's probably best to do a simple background, so either a solid color or a gradient, just so it's like visually okay looking, not too distracting. You can change your fonts. Some of the more important features that you might want to check or change are attribution. So if you're having people make their own posts on your Padlet, do you want to be able to see who is posting what? There might be reasons you want it to be anonymous, or you might want people to be able to come back and talk in response to each other, in which case you would want attribution on. One of the tricky things with attribution is then people will be prompted to log in. So if you just want to keep it anonymous, then people won't have to log in. And you could always just have people sign their name at the end if that's important. I always use comments because that's just the main way that I use this, is for people to comment on content. You can also use reactions. One way I've used this with kids is just using like agree is a thumbs up, disagree is a thumbs down. reminding them that it's not disliking each other's posts, but just showing agreement. So you might do that, or you might just say, I don't want reactions, it's too complicated, and that's fine too. The default is no reactions. And you do not want to require approval, because then you'll have to go through and click all of them. So you probably don't need these two. We're adults and all here together. So those are all of your settings. And click next, and you have an amazing, beautiful Padlet. So now is where you can start uploading your content. So that's where you're going to click this little plus button. You can also drag and drop just files onto the page if you're using like pictures or media. You'll be prompted to put a title. You don't have to. Quote number 1, and then that's just going to show up. So if you don't put a title, that's fine. Typically, if I'm posting just text, I don't put a title, and then you will see people will be able to comment on it. We also have this plus sign in the bottom, so you can continue to add content. So that is how you actually make it. Really, really important. Now you want to share it, so you need to click share at the top. And you can either invite people, or you can just change the privacy. So I typically make it public during the time that we're using it. That just, for me, is easiest, because if it's private or secret or anything like that, they have to log in, and it's just kind of complicated. Another option that I haven't tried yet is password protecting it, if you feel like that's necessary. Probably no one is going to come looking for your Padlet. But I do understand that that might be a concern, so you can always password protect it, and I would love to see how that goes. But I typically just make it public and then share the link like at the time that I want people to use it, and then make it private again after we have used it, or can delete it for these purposes. So you can make it public or what have you. And then you have all these options to just copy the link if you want to use a QR code, however you want to do that. Or you can email it out if you wanted people to do that ahead of time. So there's lots of options. And finally, if you are like me and make them public, but you want to save the stuff that people did, you can always export your content later. Again, I've not tried that, so I would love to hear how that goes. But that is how you make a Padlet. So I hope that that's a helpful tool for you all, and would love to learn more as y'all work with it.